There is snow coming down as I write this, though not much of it. A thin, dry flurry of the kind that never quite decides to amount to anything. And it has been not deciding for an hour or more. It hisses a little when the wind carries a few flakes into the fire. Otherwise, it is quiet snow, the kind that falls without any sound of falling. And the evening around it is quiet too, and I am under a roof of sorts, which I did not expect to be able to say tonight. I should set down where I am, since this island is not one the ledger knows. It is a small place, low rock and scrub mostly, the brush growing the way it does where the wind has opinions, short and leaning and holding on. There is water close on every side. I am here because the day put me here, and that is the whole of the story of how I chose it, which is to say, I did not choose it at all. The day went long, and it went long for an ordinary reason. There is a bearing mark well to the north that I wrote up as unreliable at entry 1839, when the numbers I took off it would not sit with what my charts had, near enough that I could see where the trouble was and not near enough to leave alone. It has been in the ledger since, waiting for a day I could give to it. Today was that day. The mark is a tall rock split down its length, which takes a bearing well, because the split reads the same from any angle a man is likely to come at it. My notes had it standing at the head of a shingle beach. When I came up on it this morning, the shingle had drawn back, and the rock stood in the water instead, out past a new line of wet stones, with the old beach pulled away behind it like a tide that had thought better of returning. The rock had not moved. The shore had gone out from under it, and it had gone further than the numbers had led me to expect. Working the line again from what was left took the better part of the day and carried me a good way past the rock itself, out beyond the water I know, and into water where my charts have nothing marked at all. The island I am sitting on tonight I came across out there, in the middle of that work, and I stopped long enough to take its position and a rough bearing off it before going on, which is what I do with any ground that has nothing drawn for it yet. There is a fair amount of such ground out this way, and most of it I have never had cause to return to. By the time I had the line worked out to my satisfaction, the light was beginning to go, and the snow had started. There was nowhere to land back at the rock. The shingle a boat could once have been brought up on has gone with the rest of the beach, and what remains is wet stone and open water. Nothing else charted lay within reach of the daylight I had, but I had this island's position from earlier in the day, and so I turned back for it, which is how a man comes to spend the night on ground he cannot name. I brought the boat onto a shelf of stone on the lee side and hauled her up above the rack where the night's tide will not reach her, and then I went looking on foot for somewhere out of the wind. 200 paces on, I found the lean-to. I had not seen it from the water. It sits well back from the shore, tucked against a low outcrop, and it wears so nearly the same gray as the stone behind it that I was almost within reach of it before I saw it for what it was. I want to be plain that I did not build it, and do not know who did. It is old work. The frame is driftwood, gone gray as the rock it leans on, lashed at the joints with cord that is weathered pale and furred, but held when I put my weight against it, which I did, once, the way you test a thing before you trust it over your head. Moss has taken the whole of the north side, and under the open end of it, set into the ground, there is a ring of stones for a fire, and that ring is older than the shelter standing over it. I could tell at a glance. The stones are blackened deep into the grain with smoke, the kind of black that only comes from many fires across many years, and the driftwood frame above them carries no soot at all. Someone stopped here once and laid a hearth, and someone, the same hands or another pair, came later and gave the hearth a roof. The builders are long gone. The place has the settled look of ground that has not been stood on in years, and does not expect to be again. I gave the builders about as much thought as it took to get my gear in under the roof, which was not much. And then I let the question be and got on with the fire. The fire took work. The wood on an island like this is whatever the water has left and the scrub can spare, and none of it is anything like the dry, stacked lengths that wait in the pile at home. What I gathered was damp along its undersides and light in the hand, the sort that burns fast where it burns at all and wants feeding the way a good stove log never does. I gave the better part of the first hour over to it, breaking and drying what I could at the edge of the small flame I had, feeding and shifting and feeding again, coaxing rather than building. Somewhere in that hour, the fire and I came to our arrangement, and it burns now the way it means to burn for the night, low and a little sullen, needing an eye kept on it and paying that back in heat. The old ring of stones holds some of that heat and gives it back through the fire's low spells, when the flame itself is doing little. I understand now why the hearth was laid just here, in this pocket of stone by whoever laid it. He knew the business better than the driftwood over my head would suggest. The lean-to has its faults. The wind has found 2 gaps in it already, and will likely find others before morning. The roof is short enough that my boots lie nearer the weather than I would choose if the choosing were mine. But it turns the worst of the wind, and it keeps the snow off the page, and a man handed a roof he did not have to carry with him has no standing to go looking for its faults. I am glad of it, gladder than the bare fact of it should account for, in the way a man is glad of any small luck that finds him at the end of a long day. Past the reach of the firelight, the snow goes on. I can see it only where the light catches it, a few flakes at a time crossing into the glow and gone again, and beyond that there is only the water, working along the shore with nothing behind it to hurry it, so slight a movement that it is more a shifting of the stones than a wave arriving. I had the charts out earlier, while there was still light enough to draw by, and put this island down before the day went. Drawing wants daylight. Writing will make do with a fire, which is why the one waited for the light and the other has waited for now. The sheets I use most are soft from the using, worn pale along their folds, gone round at the corners the way paper goes when the same hands keep coming back to it. The sheet this island now sits on is not like that. It is stiff yet, close to new, because there has never been much out this way to bring me back to it. I drew the island small, took my bearing lines off it, wrote the sounding I had from the approach, and put the charts away. That page will soften the way the others have, or it will not, depending on where the work sends me, which has never once been mine to say. The line I came out here to fix is fixed. The rock still takes a good bearing, whatever its beach has done. And there is a lean-to on an island with no name on it, which I know now and did not know this morning, and that is a fair return on a day by the only accounting I have ever kept. The fire is asking to be fed again. The flurry has thinned without stopping, and I do not believe it means to stop before morning. The wood I gathered should see the night through if I am careful with it, and I intend to be careful with it.